All right, but let's talk about this Portman thing because it is, on one hand,
And he's from Cincinnati, which is, I think, where you're going with
right,
that segue.
indeed, and on one hand, it is, it's pretty big news insofar as he's the only Republican senator to come out in favor of marriage equality. There was a big show, I think it was about 2 weeks ago now, of big Republican luminaries coming out in support of marriage equality, but they were all
Former. Except for
former
two congressionals.
two congressional backbenchers in two of the few purple congressional districts in this country. And so it was essentially a story about how the Republican Party, if you're an elected Republican official, you cannot come out in favor of marriage equality. Portman breaks the mold, but in a way, he really doesn't, does he?
No, and it's interesting on a couple of counts. The first one that you bring up is very interesting in that you've got these guys like Portman, of course, who can only be liberal when they've personally experienced something. That's how they break the mold. In other words, I wrote a column on this about a month ago, and because at the time Mark Kirk, who people may know, the senator from Illinois, he is one of the more moderate Republican senators. Yet he still votes with them on most issues. He sticks with his party. And he was one of the ones supporting cutting Medicaid and things of that sort. He had his stroke. He went and he saw that he needed all of this rehab to get back to where he was, and said if I had only been limited to the rehab I would have gotten under Medicaid, I wouldn't have come nearly as far as I am right now. So he had this newfound devotion to Medicaid. Chris Christie, who loves berating teachers, eating jelly donuts, and going after unions, and who's now become a hero that many on the left love. People forget he still will cut almost any program. But when a hurricane hits his area, then the government needs to step in, much like those legislators from the Louisiana area who don't want to give hurricane money to New York, but do want to give money when it hits them. And it just seems, and I could go on through the list, Chuck Hagel being someone who's great on war and peace issues because he went to Vietnam. Pete Domenici, who likes getting involved in the sheets with friends' daughters and is anti-choice and is anti-gay, but he used to fight like hell for parity for mental health issues, because his daughter suffered from mental health issues. And we can go on. It's like, to be conservative, it seems you have to be personally affected. In fact, that was even in Rob Portman's statement. I love my son, and I believe he should have equality. Well, what about everybody else's sons? Do we need your son to be poor so you'll raise the minimum wage? Do we need your son to want to be forced into a pregnancy so that you will be pro-choice? Do we need your son to be shot at so that you'll be for the assault weapons ban? And I mean, this is the thing that drives me nuts about conservatives. We all gain perspective through life. I've gained perspective through having kids. Sadly, one of the reasons I was late here today, my father's in the hospital right now. I've gained some perspective into Medicare and some of the other things, even though I was always very much for them. But I've gained more perspective. But the difference between us and them, frankly, is that we can empathize and try to understand situations beyond our own. And conservatives just don't seem to be able to do that.
You're absolutely. I mean, let's. I want to just read this one part of Portman's announcement when he talks about. First, he mentions 2 years ago, my son Will, then a college freshman, told my wife Jane and me that he is gay. He said he'd known for some time and that his sexual orientation wasn't something he chose. It was simply part of who he is. And Portman talks about, well, I'm proud of my son for his honesty, et cetera, et cetera. At the time, my position on marriage for same-sex couples was rooted in my faith tradition that marriage is a sacred bond between a man and a woman. And then here's the turn. It really is poetic in a sense. Knowing that my son is gay prompted me to consider the issue from another perspective. In other words, I've never considered the issue from another perspective, and I'm locked into that framework.
Right.
That's what you're talking about here. No, that of a dad who wants his 3 kids to lead happy, meaningful lives with the people they love, a blessing Jane and I have shared for 26 years. And Matt Iglesias linked on Twitter to a piece that Mark Schmidt wrote, who I think is now at the American Prospect. I'm not sure where he is, and I'm not sure where he was at the time, but this is from 2005.
Right.
And he was talking at the time about Senator Gordon Smith, who from Oregon, if I remember correctly.
That is correct.
And he talks about how Gordon Smith came out for against cuts to Medicaid, and he says he doesn't. And this is under the Bush administration. And first he talks about how, I don't think this is terribly courageous of this guy to come out for a position that is incredibly popular with his constituents in a blue state.
Right.
And he's not particularly courageous for doing something that's completely sound in
Right.
terms of policy. And he says, he writes, I'm tired of giving quasi-conservatives credit for what I call Miss America compassion. Smith's son's suicide led him to support more funding for suicide prevention and for mental health care generally. Great. Schmidt writes, my life has been affected by suicide also, so I'm for that. Similarly, Senator Pete Dominic's daughter of mental illness made him an advocate for mandating equitable treatment of mental and physical well-being in health insurance, a cause which he was joined by Paul Wellstone. Again, I'm all for it. But what has always bothered me about such examples is that their compassion seems so narrowly and literally focused on the specific misfortune that their family encountered.
Yeah.
Having a child who suffers from mental illness would indeed make one particularly passionate about funding for mental health, sure. But shouldn't it also lead, and this is the key graph, lead to a deeper understanding that there are a lot of families in all kinds of situations beyond their control who need help from government? This is the step
Yes.
that conservatives cannot take even once they get a perfect example of how blind they've been. So in other words, Rob Portman could learn two things from having a son come out to him. One is he could learn, I need to see this particular issue from a different perspective, i.e., from the perspective of a father of a gay child who I know as a father deserves all the rights that and the opportunities that I perceived he deserved before I knew he was gay.
Right.
That he should be able to have a loving relationship and a committed relationship, a long-term relationship with all the rights that are afforded people who are married. But what it also should teach him, which he cannot seem to learn even in this instance, never mind before this instance, is that, hey, this should open my eyes to the fact that I am not empathetic or I'm not been seeing the other perspective on a whole raft of issues.
Right.
That are far greater than mine. I'm not even learning from this dynamic. Never mind what I'm learning in this particular instance. And this has been, as you say, this has been something that has plagued conservatives from the get-go.